You're listening to the Midwest Most Dangerous Podcast, Lock Pod. It's Left of Center Podcast, Season 15, Episode 6. The nerd segment, we call it.
Yeah, this is going to be a nerdy show.
Yeah, if you get your nerd hat on. We got a lot of...
If you're a nerd, enjoy this show.
We're talking little government, little
stock market, little
stock
Constitution. Market. And then we got a college course coming at segment 3.
We're selling it well. We have a... Alexander,
stay tuned.
Yeah, we have Alexander Moss, and we did a test run with Alexander, with Mr. Moss, and he is a great. First off, he's an author, and he's very easy to talk to. So we're gonna be able to flow. This is a guy that knows a lot about American history, American government, and that's gonna be the third segment. We're gonna talk a little bit about what's going on in the country.
Yeah, I talked to him for a little bit pre-show, and he's number one. He's a smart guy, obviously, like you said, Tom. Secondly, he's got a real interesting take on this, and I thought Lindsay would really like him too, just because he's like a sci-fi guy.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, which kind of gave him a little bit of like he was like, look, this book I wrote, which we're going to talk about in the third segment,
the Defederalized Democrat.
Yeah, he's like, part of it was like my basis in sci-fi, as I kind of like to think about things that could happen, and he kind of I don't know what the word is, not fantasize, but like kind of think through it. Mm-hmm. That's what he did. So
that's gonna be a cool segment.
Yeah.
So, but we, I want to start off and talk to our core audience about Friday's show. I have this motto that the show, it's not a motto that I made up. It's a motto that, but like the show must
go on. Tom's motto.
Yeah, I came up with this
You
motto.
thought of that?
Yes, I did. I don't know.
I wondered where that came from.
No, but like we do take that motto on Left of Center. We try to put on a show when we're in season every Tuesday and Friday, and we don't take shows off very often, except for this Friday. We have to take the show off on Friday. We have conflicts galore throughout the whole studio, and we can't even put a backup show on that day. Like a lot of times, we'll get people to cover
the
for
backup
Kevin
upon backup upon backup.
Yeah, and it's like it's a point where we don't even know how to turn on the studio at a certain point. So Lockpod on Friday will not be on as normal. We will miss you, but we'll be back on for the rest of the season after that. It's the only episode we're going to miss this whole season.
Tom said we can't take off any more episodes.
We cannot. That's when's the last time we took an episode off during season?
I think that probably when the internet went down or something crazy like that, we had to stop it. Maybe
we
even recorded it then and played it later.
I think we did record it and play it later, and I was probably stressed because
you don't like that.
I liked having the live audience.
You like knowing the people are right there listening to you at that moment.
But I feel bad about Friday personally, and I hope that you all understand. But sometimes, our real jobs come up and prioritize. I'm
going to get over it, and I'll be ready for Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
It'll be all right. I just, I get stressed about the audience. I get stressed about like people are like, oh, fuck this. I'm not.
I'm never
anymore.
listening again.
I'm done. I'm done with Lockpod.
I don't think that. I think people go in and out of like phases. Like I've talked to some people who are like, man, I used to listen the first several seasons. I listened all the way through. Then I kind of took a break, and then I came back. And or you'll hear people that say I've listened to every episode, right?
Well, we have those clips going out now, so
yeah.
I think the clips remind people we're still here,
we're still around.
I got a good one coming up. The
next
clip's gonna be great.
What's it
it's
about?
Gonna drop on. It's the gorilla and men thing. It's so funny.
I saw some really funny post gorilla huge gorilla videos of I'm ready or who's up first or something like that, right?
100 popes against a gorilla. That was a good one.
Jill said thanks for the heads up for Friday. She's in chat.
Oh,
so now you know, Jill.
Jill, don't show
Jill
up
was
on Friday.
available.
It's nice. Yeah. Jill's like, I was ready. Dicks. Yeah. Well, it appears that Jill should have been here today.
Yeah.
Where's Lindsay?
Yeah.
Let me go to the Lindsay cam.
It's empty.
Lindsay, she's somewhere out there.
So when we get back, we're going to talk about what's going on and why Friday became such a problem for all of us. But so we'll talk about that when we get back. But again, I'm going to remind you a couple times for this show, and we're going to have graphics that go up on Friday to remind you that one show is.
You've told them enough. I think we're good. Yeah.
I just want to make
Let's
sure.
not re-emphasize that we won't be here on Friday.
Dude, when we were speaking of when we were on break, something happened, and I wrote it down because I wanted to cover it on Lockpod, okay? And it was the dire wolf resurrection. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, it was about maybe a month ago, right? Month and a half, something like that. Yeah, okay.
It was during break.
Talk about it.
And I wrote it down. So basically, with DNA technology, well, I'm just going to read this summary. Colossal Biosciences announces a groundbreaking achievement in de-extinction.
That's a word you're not used to hearing.
Yeah, that's one to put into vocabulary. De-extinction. The birth of 3 wolf pups, Romulus, Remus, and
Elon Musk.
And Khaleesi. Khaleesi, oh, okay. engineered to exhibit traits of the long extinct dire wolf, which vanished over 10,000 years ago. By the way, it's appropriately the name Khaleesi because in
Game of Thrones,
Khaleesi was the one with... No, she didn't have dire wolves, did she? Never mind. Anyway, how'd they do
Something.
it? Using ancient DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old ear bone, scientists edited 14 genes in gray wolf embryos to replicate key dire wolf characteristics.
Can I ask a question? What do you think? How does an ear bone last that long? Like,
Yeah.
I always think ear bones
Probably
are
like
tiny, and how do they even
Permafrost.
find that? Yeah.
Permafrost.
Oh, there's an ear bone.
You know what I'm saying? Like permafrost.
Only way
they
they had to
probably
do it, right?
They probably had like a whole
Oh, but
dire
this
wolf,
somehow
and then
like
or,
had
like the
DNA.
head, and then they like pulled it off. So like replicate key dire wolf characteristics such as a larger size and stronger jaws. These embryos were implanted into domestic dog surrogates, resulting in the pup's birth in late 2024. Some are skeptical. Experts argue that the resulting animals are genetically modified gray wolves rather than true dire wolves, noting that only a small fraction of the dire wolf genome was replicated. Given that dire wolves were diverged from gray wolves millions of years ago, critics contend that these engineered wolves are hybrids at best.
See, that's kind of where I am on this. It's like, okay,
Right.
I mean, great effort. I'm sure it's like just the tip of the iceberg maybe on what's going to happen, but like to me they're just like, okay, we stuck a couple of genes in, and like it's not like a
Exact
exact match
pretty
of
cool.
a dire
I bet you
wolf.
it's pretty
That's
close.
cool. I don't know.
I mean, they replicated all the characteristics outside of what, 14?
I don't know what 14 is.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
If
who
it's
knows?
14
yeah.
out of 15.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh yeah, 14 out of 15
I mean,
were
it's
replicated.
cool, right? And I think it's interesting. It's just to me, like I said, it's probably tip of the iceberg type stuff, right? We're going to see more and more of this.
This is like the same theory that they had in Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
But what was the name of that sheep that they did? Dolly?
Yeah,
Whatever, like, didn't you always feel, oh my gosh, Dolly? And then
she was
like,
cloned, right?
there you go, clone. Is that?
Yeah,
Clone.
sheep aren't extinct, Kevin.
There you
as
go.
Far as I
But I mean, what was the big, I was trying to remember, what was the big deal about Dolly the sheep,
it was a
right?
clone. It was like
a
the first clone of its time, I think.
And then, so if they could clone it, like, I don't know, how long ago was that? 15 years ago?
Probably, yeah.
At least. And it's like, how is that different than this, I guess? This is not a clone. This is
like
Kevin.
the extinction.
The animal is
extinction.
extinct.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like the dodo bird. Like if a freaking dodo bird
right, I
started
got it
running
now,
around,
John.
you wouldn't say, why is that dodo bird and a hawk? It's like the same thing. It's like, no. One's a hawk. They're all over the place. One's a fucking dodo bird. It's been extinct for hundreds of years, right?
Wow,
right, I
dude,
got
are you
it.
all right?
no. No.
It's the
Trying to
equivalent
equate a
of
dire wolf to a sheep. Come on.
I got
man.
it. I got it. All right, now I
The
get it. Thank
New
you, John.
Zealand, I just read an article. New Zealand has like 5 sheep to every man.
And how many dodos?
There's no dire wolves running
No,
around
got it,
New
got it,
Zealand,
got it,
okay?
got it. De-extinction.
Let me put it this way, Kevin. It's the equivalent of bringing back like the T-Rex. Okay, you don't
Yes,
see many
right.
of those walking around.
Which is why
But what
Tom
would
used
you-
the Jurassic Park
Yeah.
analogy. Yeah.
So, like, if you're going to do a T-Rex, you'd have to, because there's no T-Rexes
Can you
to breed.
imagine?
So you'd have to put a T-Rex into like a lizard.
Whoa.
Like some crazy
Yeah.
lizard would carry a T-Rex embryo and then like give birth to a T-Rex.
So aren't they talking about like woolly mammoth, for example? They'll do
Right.
that like through elephants or
Elephant,
something?
right.
Whoa.
It's sort of like how, and I have a friend, I don't want to get into details because it's medical stuff. So, but I had a friend who they were older and they had a baby when the mom was in her 50s. And the way they did it was they did the egg from the mom, sperm from the dad. They were both in their 50s, by the way.
Okay.
And they combined it, and then they put the fertilized egg into a carrier. This woman, a surrogate who was in her 20s and 30s, and they paid her
sure.
like $50,000.
That's how you do. I think that.
And then she carried it. But the crazy thing is, so she gives birth to the baby, and you would think, like my unmedically trained brain would think that the mom would, but she gives birth to the baby looks identical to the mom, to the DNA mom.
Yeah, because I think unlike
It's crazy.
unlike
It
some
sounds like blows my mind to think like that.
Unlike some surrogates, right, where like a lot of times you hear surrogate where like just the sperm's implanted in a egg of that surrogate
Right.
mother.
They're
This
gonna
is
share
the
with
egg was the
Yes,
already fertilized
everything
egg
was
put
done
in.
by the mom and the dad, the
Whoa.
DNA parents, and then the only thing that the surrogate that got paid, she just carried the baby.
You know what?
There was no DNA from her that went into the baby at all. So when she gave birth to the baby, so presumably you could give birth to a child like a Chinese kid
Sure.
if you're an Irish lady
Sure.
or something like that. As long as
You're
the
just-
fertilization takes place outside, and then I carry it.
You're just like the carrier.
Right. That's crazy.
You
so
know
it's sort of like the same thing with the dire wolf, right?
I wonder if like Greg's wife, wouldn't it be cool to have her on and talk about like this?
I was trying to like not get into this.
Oh, but I mean I was thinking about that.
Yes.
Like I would be so curious to hear what she says
I
about this de-extinction.
I follow Angie. Okay. I'm going to get Angie on the show.
Yeah.
We had Greg. Why did we have Greg on the show?
Twice we had Greg. Plus a video of him getting robbed.
By the way, I look at... Yeah, plus a video. So we've had Greg on the show 3 times. I follow Angie. I've known Angie for 30 freaking years. I follow her on TikTok. She has 300,000 followers.
What?
I'm like, what in the fuck, by the way?
We're going to kick Greg to the side. We want
Wait,
Angie.
we got Greg on the show.
I agree.
Angie's got 300,000 followers.
And these questions, I would love to ask her about this.
Because that's the story. Okay. And I don't think Angie would have a problem with me talking about it. That was the couple I was talking about.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh.
That's why you brought it up. I'm like, dude.
I didn't.
It's all right. But like, that's the crazy thing is, so Angie and Greg's daughter.
You didn't have to say
she
that
looks
to it
identical to Angie and Greg. And she was carried by a mom, and she has no physical traits at all from the mom that carried her. But she looks identical. But I think Angie did it. Part of the reason I think she did it was because
of her field. Her medical, yeah.
She wants to show moms. She's like, dude, I have a 9-year-old, and Angie's like, not young. No offense. She's like my age. Okay. And she's like, I have a 9-year-old. Look at me. Mm-hmm. Like, you could do your own math. Like, you had that baby when you were pretty old. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a mom in your 40s and you're looking at a doctor that's got a 9-year-old and she's almost 60, you're like, okay, I could have a baby in my 40s. Look at this lady, right?
Yeah.
So I think, not that they didn't want to have it. And by the way, their daughter is so perfect. It's amazing. It's actually like, it's pretty amazing.
I'm staying out of all this medical stuff.
It's crazy. I don't know shit. I just tell you what I read.
She'd be great. She'd be a great
That's
guest.
Lockpod. I don't know shit. I just tell you what I read.
There's the title.
Bam.
Title.
You're welcome, John.
Yeah, that's
Tom does it
I have
again.
a knack for coming up with titles.
Not knowing that you're doing it.
I'm just talking.
Slogan too. Yeah. We don't know shit. We just tell you what I read.
I just tell you what I read, man. Just like the media.
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
It's true.
I like that. Well, let's try to get Angie
when we're
on.
talking about like, you know, genetically engineering and de-extinction, I don't know shit. Let's be honest. I'm literally like reading off of my notes here. So,
I mean, I guess the thought is, and I always wonder about this, like, okay, sure, like these guys are out and about saying like, look, we did this dire wolf. Don't you think there's like some like evil lab somewhere like in China or Russia or, you know, like the Middle East?
Velociraptor. They're working on it right now. Like, what good is that going to cause? Like, great, I de-extincted the Velociraptor.
Who's going to extinct the human race?
Great. North Korea is going to make like a fleet of the Velociraptors that are loyal to them.
For war.
Right? And we're going to have to deal with Velociraptors. I don't like this whole thing.
Either.
This whole concept is not going in the right direction.
I'm not a fan. But I mean, but I did bring up Elon Musk kind of as a joke, but like, you know, he's all about like kind of like spreading his seed to create like a master race or
Are you
something
saying
like
Elon Musk is having sex with the Velociraptor?
I'm just, he could, maybe a dire wolf. I don't know.
Lindsay needs to be here for this segment for sure.
Yes. Oh, John, can you check Lindsay cam, please?
Yeah, I think she's...
Is Lindsay here yet?
Nope.
No, all right.
I wish we had like a mobile camera on Lindsay's car. We could show where she is. She's probably sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru right now or something.
Wait, do you have Find My
She's
on,
like,
on your phone?
guys.
Yeah, no,
See
I
where
do.
she's at.
Because Find My works both ways. I don't want Lindsay to know where the fuck I am.
And by the way, I want to know, like, here's another thing. Chances or percentage that Lindsay's listening to the show right now?
0.
Agree.
Like, I'm wondering if chances
like, oh my God,
Lindsay forgot about the show. That's a
50.
Okay.
50,
all right.
50.
I like these bets. All right, so
There's no way
she thought she's taking Friday off today. Apparently,
yeah.
She's
like, you said,
if Jill gets it off, I get Tuesday off.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's go for something where we don't know anything what we're talking about to something where I feel like I know a little bit about what's going on with the economy, and we do talk about this a little bit on Lockpod. And I was just dorking out talking about the stock market, which is something, it's one of my passions. I love the stock market and I love watching it. I always have an opinion about where it's going. And then I started talking about it on Lockpod one day and it seemed like it sort of took off.
I think our listeners and viewers enjoy hearing your take on what's happening. I mean, I remember even in the old studio, you writing down some things like, this is where I think it's going. This is where I think
I know exactly what I wrote down. Yeah. I still feel the same way. I said the S&P 500 is going to hit 4,500.
I was just going to say it was 4,500 is what I recall you right.
And it got down to 48.
Got close.
80 on this last drop, by the way. I don't think it's done dropping. And I'm long right now.
I was going to ask you, are you short or are you long?
I'm short again. Excuse me.
You're
I'm
short
back
again.
to short. No, because I flip-flopped last week and I got creamed a little bit.
Okay.
So basically, I just want to remind people because the stock market bounced yesterday, and I think the stock market over the next month or two is going to bounce up. Okay. And I got out of my long position, and I'm short because I'll be honest with you, because I still think it's going to take a hard fall. There's still pain out there. This is all games. Donald Trump's playing games with the market right now. And I just want to remind people, January 20th, 2025, where the S&P 500 was. I went last night and I researched all these numbers. Okay?
Why is that an important date?
January 20th, 2025 was Inauguration Day. That's when Donald Trump took over. If you remember, we were talking about the stock market. I was convinced after Donald Trump won in November and before Inauguration Day, I was convinced that Donald Trump and his loyalists were going to kill the S&P 500, try to knock that level down because it was inflated, overinflated. So when you're the president and you got a stock market that's completely overinflated, they're going to peg you to that number when you take over.
And you could, and literally as a president-elect, you could say things that will not necessarily tank the market, but could make it go down.
Hell yeah. You could just be skeptical, and you could act like you're, worried about massive cuts, and then all of a sudden the market, craters, right? Donald Trump walks into office, S&P 500 is at 6,000, and it was overinflated at that number, guys, in my opinion. I think that he walked into an overinflated market, and right now, last night after a rally, the S&P 500 raised to 5,800. So right now, even after all the tariffs
12th.
And the drops and the raises and the rallies and we're down from when he took over right now.
Yeah, probably about 3%.
We're about 3% down from when he took over. But the roller coaster ride we've experienced, like I personally think he's telling people, like, listen, I'm going to come out hard against, this, and the market's not going to take it very well. And if you were wise, you should probably short the market today.
Let me see Marjorie Taylor Greene's portfolio.
There's definitely improper speculation happening, and people in the know that the market's about to drop 5%.
And they fired everybody from the SEC, so no one's there to enforce it.
Right? And you get on the right side of the market, and then Trump says the right thing. Hey, babe, what's up?
Were you listening?
We were
you're right.
Man, you missed a whole conversation about dire wolf, everything. We could have used a nurse.
Good morning.
That news came out like a month ago.
When we were on break.
Old news.
What's up? Welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear that voice.
Yeah.
Lindsay came
off of a whole night of caring for people.
Yep.
Wow. Haven't slept.
How easy is it to stay up all night for you now?
Fairly, with caffeine and whatnot, but I've been flipping my schedules and whatnot so I could do things during the day. Not everybody in my life is on the vampire.
On the vampire schedule.
I'll be honest with you. Like, for those of you that have, a spouse or family member that works midnights, it's weird. You basically disappear from your family life.
Yeah, for a couple of days at a time. Yeah, I see Brian before he goes to work, except when I come here. And then after he comes home, and where you're like two ships passing in the night.
Man.
But with you, okay, but that's you and your husband. But with us, because
I don't see you guys very often.
Because during the day, I'm like, Lindsay and I have to work together because she also does my treasurer stuff.
That's right.
And I'm like, I'm afraid to call her at all times. I'm like, usually if I have to talk to Lindsay,
like she might be sleeping.
6 in the morning for her is 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's basically you have to flip it around.
So I can call you at midnight for lunch. You're on your lunch break.
Generally, yeah.
All right,
really?
Good to know.
Feel free, I guess. I'll probably be at work, but
yeah. So
send me a text first.
Always.
So basically, getting back to the stock market we were talking about, basically what happened yesterday
I walked
is
into stock market talk.
Well, you already missed the cool stuff, so
Gag.
yeah.
You heard it, folks. The cool stuff is over.
Yeah,
you can go about your day.
See you next.
No, we have a great guest coming on in the third segment.
Yeah, you're gonna like the guest.
I'm really excited about
sci-fi guy.
Yeah, he is. Lindsay, you're gonna like that a lot. Alexander Moss is coming.
Real exciting.
But so yesterday, basically Donald Trump basically reversed everything he did yesterday. It makes no sense what we did. We went through a whole period where tariffs went up to 145%, and then they were retaliated, and then all the ships stopped moving, and all the factories stopped producing stuff in China. All this was for nothing. What was the whole purpose
to me?
of this?
I was thinking about this, and it's kind of like, I'm like, okay, the guy comes from real estate, right? So he, in my mind, I almost think like he thinks like, oh, this is just another real estate deal. So it's like, I'm going to say to you, I'm going to raise your rent to $2 million instead of $1 million a month, right? And then we'll settle down at about $1.3 million, and I'll still be up $350,000.
Right.
He's thinking like,
agree. I think that's how he's thinking.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's crazy. So in the meantime, though, like you said, there's all these. It's not like a singular retail or real estate deal. It's the whole global economy.
And the thing that sucks the most is, so let's say during this, there's people out there that panic. And they watch the market more than they should watch it. And they react more than they should react.
Retirees.
Yes. And they're worried because, they're worried that the stock market's broken and they see it falling, and MSNBC and CNBC are like, talking about the end of the world and trade with China, and we're at a trade war, and then somebody freaks out and they sell.
Yeah, they sell and they pull their money out.
And that happens, by the way, a lot.
Without a doubt.
So then yesterday,
Panic
all
selling.
these people that sold, and they're like, whew, I'm finally out. And then yesterday, the market bounces back 4 or 5%. And you're out, by the way. And by the way, you also triggered income tax. You got to pay taxes on what you sold. Sometimes you're selling at a loss. Sometimes you're selling at a gain. There's capital gains to worry about. It's like, dude, all this was for nothing. You didn't have to go through this. It was a mature leader. And I'm not going to say Biden because, I was not a fan, and I'm glad. I wish Biden didn't run again. We all know that. I've talked about it. But this would have never happened under Biden.
No, I mean,
Biden would never intentionally cause panic into the stock market, into the world economy. It's just,
most administrations that we've lived through outside of Trump's is you in a way you think of okay, it's just kind of there's ups and downs, but you never have. It's mostly stable, right? And I think the Fed is reacts in a long-term measure, which is why it's crazy that Trump was going after Powell for not lowering interest rates. It's like these things don't happen on a day-to-day basis. You have to look at a macro economy. And I think the thing you said, Tom, is unfortunately some retirees or folks that are skittish about the market, it goes down 20%. They're like, it could go down another 20%. I better sell instead of holding.
Right.
And then it goes up again, and
or
now you're only down
3%. Turn off CNBC.
Right. Turn it off. Turn off Fox News.
Right. You're not a professional money manager. Just let it do what it does.
Let it do what it does.
I know that's how your strategy.
Absolutely.
I watch it every day.
I know you do.
Right.
And
I have opinions, by the way, and sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong. But at least I know what the fuck I'm doing as far as I know what my strategy is. And I'm not always right. I lost a couple bucks yesterday morning because I was on the wrong side. Yeah, I got out of it.
And for me, it's just more of I figure like you said, over time it's going to average out. So sometimes I buy when it's low, sometimes I buy when it's high. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping that overall I'm up a little bit.
And I think this is a good opportunity to play this clip, talking about what was this all for. And I just want to preface this with, listen, to all my fellow conservatives out there, I know that a lot of this show is hearing about the news through the eyes of Democrats, but I want you to hear it just from the mouth of these people yourself. This is about the UK tariffs.
And this is Fox News.
This is Fox News.
This is real. This is a real clip. Here we go.
So we feel really good about the deal. You've heard the Prime Minister. He feels really good about the deal. Right? And we started at 10% and we ended at 10%. And the market for America.
What? What? Yeah. Well, it's what did we just go through? Like you said, Tom.
We went through gyrations. People panicked.
Again,
people
John.
Sold.
Hey, play that again.
This is crazy.
And we started at 10% and we ended at 10%. And the market for America is better. And this is a perfect example of why Donald Trump produced Liberation Day. People don't understand. He gets things done.
I don't understand. I don't understand at all.
We got the 10%.
But basically what he did was this. He imposed tariffs on China.
Yeah.
And
around the world.
He imposed China and 10% tariff around the world. Instead of just coming out and saying America's got a 10% tariff with the entire world, we got a 35% tariff or whatever it is currently with China. Instead of doing that, he said 145% over here, 100% over here. Fucking stock market dropped the stock market got down to 4,800, which is a 20% drop from its high, by the way. It dropped 20%, and people didn't panic when it dropped 20%. They did,
yeah.
And then they locked in losses, they locked in capital gains, or
Well, what I'm wondering about is does it? To me, I'm wondering does it look weak, right?
Yeah.
How Trump really likes to portray a pattern of strength, right? That's his MO. That's his brand. And to me, it's okay, yeah, China, here's 185%, take that, or here's 145%. Right. Here, England, take 30%. Here, Canada, here's 80% or 60%. And then it's oh, I got him to the table and now we're lowering him, or I'm rethinking it and we're taking him away.
Right.
It's dude, I want you to be, I want America to be strong. Regardless of it's Trump's president, Biden's president, Obama's president, whoever. I want to be strong. And I just think it makes it look like we're out of our minds.
Yes.
We don't know what's going on. Let's try this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
totally.
That's what I don't like.
I think
about
half
it.
of this stuff is I think Trump he feels powerful by jacking up the world economy. He's
For
like, literally,
sure.
I caused chaos.
It's
around
like an
the
ego
entire
stroke.
world. Totally, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, and he is that powerful. The American president is that powerful.
And he
that
knows
you
it.
could mess up the entire world economy just by saying, just by a tweet in the morning.
Yeah.
You could do that.
He
You have that
loves
much
it.
power, and he loves doing it. I think that's a lot of it, Kevin.
I think you're right. It's like an ego thing. Like, look what I can do.
He gets a little chubber.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
That's so gross.
Yeah, it is gross. I agree.
I didn't want to think about that.
So
John, like, as
presidential chubber.
Oh God, John, as a conservative, like your view on the like, I just want to.
I agree with what you just said, Kevin. That to me and to a lot of conservatives, there's a concern that he just came out of the gate a little bit too hard and haphazardly with international things like tariffs, like relations in the Middle East, Canada,
Declaring war on Canada.
So you got to wonder if there is a playbook here.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping there is, but I see clips like this and I'm like, what is going on? I see tweets from Trump like just yesterday. Energy's down. Groceries are down. Pharmaceuticals are going to be down. But in the real world, are gas prices really down, guys? I haven't seen it. Show me where gas is like $1 something that Trump was tweeting
I saw
about.
3 the other day, which was awesome.
So there's no real world effect
You
yet
said like no
for your
inflation. I'm
average
like,
person.
But you know why
Yeah.
the price of gas is down is because we're heading into a recession. And when you head into a recession, the price of oil drops. And if the price of oil drops, the price of gas drops.
But it hasn't really.
But like I'm telling you, the price of oil is dropping
Sure.
dramatically. It's like $60 a barrel right now.
Okay.
If the price, and by the way, normal price for
180 to 100.
Right. 80 to 100. So like gas is going to be cheap. It has nothing. It has to do with people having no confidence in the economy.
Exactly.
Which
and
isn't a
and by the
positive.
way, it's a terrible thing. It's a
It is
negative.
a terrible
and
thing.
it's a lack.
If
a
you
lack
have
of
confidence in the
investment, then you have no
economy,
investment.
the price of gas rises because people are like, hell yeah, we're going on vacation. I'm getting an RV. We're going to take the family. Nobody's saying that right now. So the price of gas is dropping because of supply and demand.
And I always try to think of it like as like if I was a business owner of some large, huge, capital intensive company where am I going to invest right now and expand?
No.
And if you're not, and you multiply that by
So Apple.
Yeah, sure.
Is Apple going to build a factory in America? Or are they going to wait out Trump's presidency?
They're moving it all to India.
Okay,
That's
but
the
the
latest.
but the thing
To
is,
avoid
John.
the tariffs.
But what they're
Congratulations.
first off, if let's say Apple did want to build a factory in America, it would take way more than 4 years
Without a doubt.
logistically for all that to work itself out, right? So are they going to just be like, yeah, we're going to build it in Indiana. We're going to build it in Hammond. It's going to be a complicated deal. We're going to be working on this for the next couple of years, right? And then for a couple of years, Trump goes around, yeah, Hammond, Indiana is getting an Apple plant. This is great, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they say, we're not going to do it. And Trump's got 1 year left of his term.
And the tariffs
right?
go away by
And
the new
tariff, right? It's like,
are they going to do it? And by the way,
They're
and multiply that goes to jobs, right? Like people's work and just the economy. And it goes back to your thing. Like, am I going to go on vacation when I think I'm going to have some work because of this expansion because I'm in the construction trades or whatever. I'm an iron worker, and another thing you just said, Tom, I think is true and hits home is like, think about like during the CHIPS Act, right? And like these CHIPS things that Biden was pushing and they're happening, but look how long it's taking.
yes.
I mean,
that was in 2022.
Yes.
I was running for U.S. Senate when the
Yes.
CHIPS Act was passed. And they're
Correct.
still,
That's a good
They're
point.
they
just
haven't even
building-
made one freaking chip yet.
No, they're building like Columbus, Ohio has a huge chip plant.
Right.
It's like, I mean, take a look at it. It's not even like it doesn't look like a chip
Look
plant
at that,
yet.
Kev. Look at that.
Right.
2022. Because I was running for U.S. Senate when that passed.
And Biden would have taken a victory lap on that, but he
Instead,
knows,
Trump will cut the ribbon and act
Sure,
like,
right.
That's politics.
I mean, I agree with that. I'm just saying, like, these things that you're saying that he's like, oh, it's going to be great, doesn't happen. It takes time.
I remain hopeful. I think Trump wants to be an effective president. I think he has been in a lot of ways. Look at immigration, way down, just the daily border crossings.
Agree.
But to your point, Kevin and Tom, I think we're at a point. Trump's termed out. You're looking at midterms where Republicans in the House and stuff are going to be afraid to get behind more controversial bills because they don't want to lose their seats.
Yep. And they're going to have
You've
gridlock again.
You've got cabinets looking for nominations in 2028, so they're probably not going to do much. So I'm a little worried the rest of the term, personally.
Well, I'm telling you, the Republicans are going to get their brains beat in the midterms. They're going to get their brains beat
Very
in.
vivid.
I'm telling you, Lindsay. The Democrats are going to take control of the House.
I hope so.
And then
Yeah, I
if
think
the
so,
Democrats
too.
take control of the Senate, there's nothing going to happen
Gridlock.
for 2 years.
Yeah.
And by the way, Trump will be lucky.
They'll be impeached.
Well, you know what?
If he makes it through that.
Same old.
Hang on to that thought. We're going to do ads and come back and talk about Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. So for those that don't know what that is or don't look it up, we'll be right back. And the other thing, though, I want to mention to you, Tom, what you just mentioned about like gridlock is going to be great for our third segment because he's going to talk about the fact that the federal model may not be one that is lasting.
I agree, and I'm excited about Alexander Moss coming on because I'm worried about whether or not 50 years from now, America is going to be where we're going to be.
That's why
I think it's likely not, being honest, because of
a lot different, I think.
Anyway, let's go ahead and do some ads. Let's start with Powering Indiana Lake County, our premier studio sponsor. Powering Indiana Lake County is your source for the region's most trusted electricians. At Powering Indiana Lake County, we set the standard for excellence in electrical work. As IBEW Local 697 electrical contractors, we ensure safety, reliability, and quality for Northwest Indiana corporations, businesses, and homes alike. But our mission goes beyond the job site. We're creating a brighter future for the region we proudly serve. Powering Indiana Lake County, bringing excellence to the job, creating a brighter future for our community. Find the right electrical contractor at poweringindiana.org.
MCR Partners is your one-stop destination for top-notch expertise in economic development, finance, and planning. With a dedicated team geared up to tackle your projects head-on, they're your go-to comprehensive solution providers. Dive into the world of economic development with MCR Partners and let them guide you through the maze of opportunities. Stay in the loop and connected by hitting up their website at mcrpartnersllc.com. And for tailored assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to Matt Reardon on his personal cell phone at 219-741-9511.
Tortillas Nuevo Leon. Tortillas Nuevo Leon is the gold standard in Mexican cuisine across the Midwest. Look for Tortilla Nuevo Leon's popular red and white label at your local grocery store and enjoy quality Mexican products made with local expertise.
Tortillas Nuevo León, hechas con amor, para ti y tu familia de todo corazón. Tortillas Nuevo León, hechas con amor, para ti y tu familia, de todo corazón.
Jeez.
Elevate your brand with Misprint, the premier printing and sign solution in Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. With a 30-year legacy of excellence, their experienced team, led by Rick Baltonsberger, combines innovation and technology to deliver top-quality signs and printing, always on time and within budget. Conveniently located in Munster and Hammond, Misprint is your partner for creating impactful visual solutions that leave a lasting impression. Visit them at misprintusa.com to bring your vision to life today.
Cantrell and Cantrell Attorneys at Law. Are you injured or in trouble with the law? Give Cantrell and Cantrell a call and schedule your consultation with someone who is in court and at the jail every day. Call John Cantrell at 219-554-4LAW. That's 554-4LAW, or visit their website at bettercallcantrell.com. John and his wife Kristen make a great team and are waiting to hear from you.
The bug guys, mice in the kitchen, ants in your bed, spiders up high messing with your head. Don't get a flamethrower. That's a bit extreme. Just call the bug guys. We're the dream team. We'll evict your pests without a fight, and you'll sleep soundly every night. No bugs, no drama, no creepy surprises. Just clean, safe homes from the bug guys. Call now because your house is not an insect Airbnb. The bug guys, 219-810-7481.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
This is sort of a preview for our next guest. We're rolling into the third segment with guest Alexander Moss, who's an author about democracy. But there's an interesting article right now, and a lot of people are throwing around the term habeas corpus, and I guarantee you most of the American audience has no idea what habeas corpus is. Quite frankly, most people don't know until they go to law school what habeas corpus means and what suspending habeas corpus is and how serious that is. So what does that mean? I mean, it's been done a few times in American history where, because of an emergency, the president or Congress suspends the writ of habeas corpus.
4 times.
Okay, so let me think. I can go off the top of my head. When we put Japanese Americans in our version of concentration camps during World War II, that was one. I know President Lincoln suspended the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War to prevent unrest. So basically, there was no First Amendment during the Civil War. Like, if you came out and said, I think President Lincoln is doing this the wrong way, they could arrest you for that if the writ of habeas corpus is suspended.
Yeah,
so that's 2 times I got.
Yeah, and so
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, Japanese Americans.
Well, so I was gonna actually correct you just a little bit. You were right about the World War II, but it was only on Hawaii. It was only on the island of Hawaii, where they suspended habeas corpus. You're right about the concentration camps in California,
but that's also.
But it wasn't.
You don't have constitutional protections if you're in a.
That's a whole different thing. But it was habeas corpus was actually suspended only in Hawaii, where, believe it or not, at the time a third of the population was Japanese.
Right.
So,
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. I was in Hawaii last year, and it's still it feels like you're visiting Japan.
So the other two times that it was suspended was during Reconstruction in parts of South Carolina. The federal government suspended habeas corpus when the Ku Klux Klan was overrunning parts of South Carolina. I didn't know about that one. And then also in two provinces in the Philippines, which are territory, were at the time under U.S. control in 1905.
Okay, so this is what that means to me. If they suspend the writ of habeas corpus. So right now, why this is news right now is President Trump allegedly, according to Stephen Miller, is allegedly toying with the idea of suspending the writ of habeas corpus for immigration-related activities. Meaning, if we find somebody that we think is an illegal, we could deport them without worrying about due process.
Correct. It suspends the ability to go before a court and request your release. So basically,
normally we have the right to appear before a judge. We have the right to try,
and to request a release because you believe you've been literally unlawfully detained. Mm-hmm. So like when you hear about that student in Louisiana at Tufts, it's in Tufts, I think. Yeah, that's right. She got detained in Louisiana. At Tufts University, she wrote an article about Gaza. Mm-hmm. She is a Turkish citizen, right? She's here on a student visa. She got picked up off the street and put into a jail in a detention center in Louisiana. Her remedy was to file a writ of habeas corpus to the district court judge who found that she should not be detained and released her.
Right.
That's what the writ of habeas corpus is. It literally means bring me the body. Okay,
right.
That's what the translation is. And
oh wow!
And what the Constitution says, it's just two sentences. It's one sentence actually. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. That's all it says.
Right.
So
Article 1 is legislative branch first.
And
off.
Explain why. I mean,
so Article 1 is legislative branch, which means when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they put it under Article 1 for a reason. Because they pictured Congress exercising this authority, not the president.
Bingo.
If it was the president, it would be under Article 2.
Bingo.
And it's not.
Correct.
So that's one problem. But then again, President Lincoln, FDR, they've used this.
Yes, through Congress. Believe it or not, it was through Congress.
So Congress declared it a national emergency, and then they were able to.
The writ of habeas corpus was suspended.
So if Congress declares the immigration situation a national emergency, invasion, then Donald Trump could suspend the writ of habeas corpus for people suspected of violating immigration crimes, right?
For detainees, yeah. For those that, let's say, he's taking and putting in El Salvador, right? And so the really interesting thing that I found was that President Bush tried to do this after 9/11 at Guantanamo, right? So it's really not that far off of what we're trying to do here, because what President Bush was trying to say is you had foreign nationals. Remember when there were all these like secret flights and taken from Poland or wherever, and they were flown down to Guantanamo, these people they found on the battleground, right?
Right.
And so the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision back in 2008, said the detainees at Guantanamo have rights of U.S. citizens regarding habeas corpus.
What year was that?
2008. It's a case
the Supreme
called...
Court's changed a lot since 2008, my friend.
It has, but...
A lot.
That's some significant...
The Supreme Court has changed a lot. If challenged in a similar manner in 2025, I have a feeling things would be going to be different.
I'd be curious, because this case is
they
so...
freaking overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yeah,
You're talking about a Supreme Court that overturned 54 years of precedent.
I don't think they overturned this. Boumediene versus Bush. Take a look at it.
I didn't think they were going to overturn Roe versus Wade, my friend.
Yeah, but I just think it's a different...
They respect precedent? Is that what you're going to tell me?
Well, I'm hoping they do. I'm a lawyer. I hope to God they do. But I think the interesting thing about this is habeas. The argument was abortion isn't a right in the Constitution. Habeas corpus is.
Okay.
And I think this is really interesting to see if this case gets brought up.
I think if the argument is we're doing this to stop an invasion, I think the other side's best argument would be you've stopped the invasion with your daily border crossing numbers. So
there you go.
No need to suspend habeas.
So keep an eye on this. It's interesting.
This is interesting, man.
From a nerd
they could literally
lawyer.
grab you off the streets if they suspect you of violating immigration-related crimes and deport you, and you have no right to due process.
Yeah, you have no right to contest that
wild
detention.
That's unbelievable.
Well, the question is, how far
did you
it
vote
go?
for that? Did they talk about that in the last election? I don't remember
Habeas
seeing that.
corpus might be going.
I didn't see that mailer.
Listen, all I wanted was us to take over Canada, and now we're in habeas corpus
I
territory.
didn't see anything about
That
Canada
wasn't a
during that
vote,
race
vote
either.
for us.
No,
We're
we
getting
didn't.
rid of habeas corpus.
Right. So,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah.
We don't know shit. We just tell you what
Most
we
people
read.
are like, habeas corpus. Who gives a shit?
I don't
right?
even know what that means.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go ahead and do ads. And when we come back, we're going to have Alexander Moss. He is an author of the Defederalized Democrat. It's going to be a great segment. It's going to be consistent with the rest of the show. So come back. And start off with Byway Brewing, a family-friendly microbrewery with a spacious tap room and an outdoor patio serving its award-winning craft beer, a chef-driven food menu, and craft cocktails on draft. Their brewing equipment and production facility offers a unique backdrop for events like bridal showers, reunions, or corporate parties. With their new food truck, they can cater to your corporate and private events off-site. Just off 8094th Kennedy Avenue South exit. Discover more at bywaybrewing.beer.
Don't let your business get lost in the shuffle of generic branding and aimless marketing. Trust Northwest Indiana's award-winning full-service marketing agency, The Branding Room Floor. Providing data-driven results to help your business grow in a crowded market is their specialty. From website development and digital advertising to graphic design and branding, The Branding Room Floor will set your business or organization on a clear path to strategic success. Don't wait another day to get started and visit thebrandingroomfloor.com today.
Prestmer Insurance Agency. For decades, the Ron J. Prestmer Insurance Agency has been located right on Indianapolis Boulevard, serving all your insurance needs. The Prestmer Agency specializes in a wide range of insurance products and services, including auto, home, business, life, and much more. The Prestmer Agency serves thousands of people and businesses throughout Chicagoland and the Midwest. Call Ron or Ronnie today at 219-844-0103. They're here to protect what matters most to you.
Michelob Ultra, the official sponsor of the PGA, is a superior light beer with ultra smooth taste. This refreshingly crisp light lager has only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs, making it the perfect beer on the golf course or on the 19th hole. Check out the new Ultra Zero with only 29 calories, making it the perfect zero alcohol beer for any time of the day. Head over to CalBrew or the Michelob Ultra websites and social media pages for more info on this great family of beers. Enjoy the Michelob Ultra lifestyle with beers and cheers responsibly.
Are you facing legal challenges and don't know where to turn? Look no further than Kuklakis Law, your trusted source for legal advice in Indiana and Illinois. Do you need representation or buying, selling real estate? Call Kuklakis Law. Do you need help forming your business? Call Kuklakis Law. Did you get injured in a car crash or at your job? Call Kuklakis Law. No matter what your legal issue, call 219-671-6347 for a free consultation. Who you going to call? Kuklakis Law. Hablamos Español.
Has your habeas corpus been suspended?
Call Kuklakis Law.
Are you concerned about your rights?
I specialize in habeas corpus. So it said no lawyer ever.
Soon those billboards are going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Habeas corpus, question mark?
Dude.
Thank you to our sponsors.
Yeah, thanks to our sponsors.
Ladies
Ladies and gentlemen,
sponsor, Power in Indiana County.
it's my proud pleasure to introduce a political science writer, a self-admitted science fiction fan. So, Lindsay, take note. He's the author of several books dealing with the relationship between the federal government and state governments. He lives in Seattle, Washington with his wife, son, and 2 cats. He has a bachelor's in political science from the University of California. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Left of Center Podcast, Alexander Moss.
Woo!
Nice to see you, sir.
Hi,
Good
gentlemen,
morning,
thank you
Alex.
for having me on. I really appreciate
Wow,
it.
your microphone is crisp.
That's a great
Thank you.
microphone.
You do
Thank
this
you.
a lot, right?
I over the last year, I've gotten more into filmmaking and presentations, and so that meant upgrading some of my kit. So my wife's been very patient with me with my new camera and my mic and all that fun
Honey,
stuff.
I got a $10,000 camera.
Hope you don't mind. I know it's 6:30 in the morning in Seattle, and I'm on
early.
a podcast. But
What's the
know,
weather like in Seattle right now, my friend?
You know, it's May. It's the middle of May, and it's still like 50 degrees out. So
that's like where we live. It gets like that here. So like, what could you expect
today.
on a? Is it like a rainy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon kind of weather in Seattle?
Yeah, for today. I mean, I think Seattle. There's sort of a joke in Seattle that all the rain is overstated to keep people from moving here. You know, I think Chicago gets more rain
Really?
than Seattle does.
Wow.
Yeah, that was according to some of the
Wouldn't
stats
know
I
that.
saw.
The thing, I grew up on the West Coast. I grew up in Napa, California, and the biggest
yeah.
adjustment for me living in the Midwest is the fact that you don't see the sun for like weeks at a time in the winter. It's like a constant perma cloud over the area. It's like it's hard to get used to, actually.
It
Yeah.
is depressing. The seasonal depression is very real out here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, it's the microclimate between Sacramento and Napa alone, just huge delta.
Yeah, you're right,
Anyway.
man. So
Anyway.
yeah, you didn't come on here to talk about
microclimate.
weather.
No, I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Are you a college professor?
I am not. My background's actually in software development. I spent about 30 years as a software architect, developer, and then architect. So if you've ever, you know, booked a hotel, used a video game console, you've probably used something I've touched.
No way.
Yeah.
How cool, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is kind of a common Gen X story. I went to Davis. Davis is a big feeder for the State Department. So a lot of my friends wound up going down either law paths or into the State Department. But in the 90s, I was also a computer geek. And so even though I did the poli-sci major, I wound up going into tech, did that for years, built and eventually sold a company. So that's kind of what gives me the freedom now
To write books.
to write books. Exactly.
Like this one, which we have in front of us, the Defederalized Democrat.
Is it hard to write? I mean, is it hard to get published? And like, you know, is it? Have you had like huge success doing this?
So I've done in total about 8 books. Some of them were tech books. This is so poli-sci books. This is a little different space. I mean, it doesn't. To be perfectly frank, the audience for poli-sci books, like I think I'm in the top 50 for state and local government books right now on Amazon.
Look at you, man.
And it's still like not. You know, in terms of the sales numbers and all that, it's not like tearing up the field. Or
I'm your
anything.
target audience, my friend.
Yeah.
I
like it.
right. Yes, you have to be
like us.
that kind of nerd at the party. You know,
You're like Elvis to me.
So
yeah,
Alexander,
right. Talk about how you guys were mentioning habeas corpus, and I think that's an example. Like, there's you get this group of friends, and that's the kind of thing they're going to talk about, and then you have this tension because then if you go to the parties that aren't the poli-sci nerds, they're like whatever. And I was fortunate I was getting to listen to you guys chat about a little bit, and that conversation is part of what led me to writing the book, because I was listening to you guys talk, and like one of you was sort of taking more of a like, oh my gosh, where's the boundaries? What are they going to do? And the other one's like, well, no, I'm from a legal background, and especially if you study constitutional law, you're like, there's no way these guys are going to do this, right? And so the book is kind of like a what if they actually do, and like where do you draw those lines? And one of the tensions is around planning. Like you kind of have to assume that you're going to have to plan for both scenarios. And that's part of why the news is so exhausting right now. And so the book was kind of like, this is an example of how to deal with all that and make it less exhausting. And, it's failed in the sense that I'm still not more fun at parties.
I think you're fun, Alexander.
Thank you.
We're having a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I can just kind of tee up the book a little bit,
Yeah, would
explain
you?
where it came from.
For sure.
Yeah. So basically, starting about 7-8 years ago, obviously we had an election that went one way, and I was listening to the rhetoric. You watch the speeches and you say like, holy crap, if this goes the way that he's talking, this looks like a very dark place, right? And the sort of science fiction side was, I just kept noticing how much popular media revolved around the idea of the United States falling apart. It could be Hunger Games. There's this, game Cyberpunk that's all premised on the U.S. falling apart. Just so much media. And so it kind of started out as I'm listening to the rhetoric for this guy talk, and then I'm also noticing how much of the pop culture is just revolving around this idea things fall apart. Right. And I think some of that's processing. Like there's a grief component here. Like if you're a poli-sci major or you went to law school, like you grew up thinking about the federal government and the legal system and all that stuff. That's kind of like, almost like meaning, right? Not to be super nerdy, but like, Sartre talks about nausea, and some of that comes from this crisis of belief. And I think that that's part of what as a country we're struggling with right now. So I started kind of going down this path like 7-8 years ago, and I just started taking notes. I was like, what does this mean? What does it look like? And every time I talk to people, they'd say, well, what about this? What about social programs? What about the military? What about foreign relations? What does it mean for the state relationship between the states if this thing starts going sideways? And so the first book I wrote was a little more optimistic about kind of like this nice way things might fall apart. This book, which is, a better book in every way, really gets into, if the federal government starts to fade or fall apart or become hostile, then what?
Is there any other book like this out there? I've never heard of a book premised on what you're talking about.
No, and I don't believe so. And I think that part of that is I have got a little diagram in the book for a political axis.
I think it's on page 113. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Told you, man. We're your target audience.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right, 112. I missed it by a page, but
yeah. So that diagram for people who are listening just to audio and can't look at the diagram, basically, and I sort of joke, every poli-sci book needs its little political poli-sci axis, right? So this one, the idea there is that the Republican coalition right now includes both a much more aggressive version of interpreting the federal government for pursuing their agenda, and then there's also this sort of defederalized, I just want the federal government to go away, states-centric kind of view. And what's interesting is on the left, we have two different wings of a coalition where one of them is more status quo and one of them is more progressive. But no portion of the Democratic wing today really has this notion of embracing states as a model. And part of what I noticed as a West Coaster is how much more of the progressive agenda seems to move forward at the state level. A classic example there might be marijuana legalization. Mm-hmm. That's a state-driven thing. Its current status today is kind of weird. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
you're
legal at the federal level, legal state by state, but you can still get arrested at any time.
Yeah,
I know pretty well.
Sound too weird.
Yeah,
right.
Dad partakes. No, just kidding.
Yeah, and so like one of the things, like I'll give you an example. The current administration might declare, for example, a governor of a state that's legalized marijuana to be the ringleader for narcotics trade.
Wow.
Right.
And so you start exploring, you start asking.
That's crazy.
Really,
so like the Michigan governor, like Indiana governor declares Gretchen Whitmer a leader of a narcotic ring of marijuana.
Yep.
So Rico, here comes Rico.
Right? Yeah. And so you start exploring these what if scenarios and you start going, oh my gosh, we've left all these hand grenades laying around. Right.
That's crazy.
And so the language, so I was actually really grumpy right after the 2016 election, because in my poli-sci classes, there were all these things that were presented as could never happen. I distinctly remember one of my professors saying, because it was I think around the 92 election, so that's dating me, but talking about how if a presidential candidate didn't present their tax returns, it would be impossible. Right? Like, no way. And now we laugh because obviously he was wrong. And so I was joking that I want my money back from Davis for my poli-sci major.
For at least that class.
Yeah.
At least that class.
Right.
And what I realized was that things made a lot more sense when I used an international relations model to kind of think about what's happening today. The agenda that we've got that we're dealing with right now is that two pieces arguing about, is it going to be disassembling the federal government or is it going to be turning it into a tool for right-wing agenda?
Well,
go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple questions, a couple things I was wondering about. Like, I know that you used, and this is interesting, right? Like you say, an international model.
Yeah.
You look at the European Union, it went from almost like, if you think about it as like Europe as like a bunch of different states, into more, hey, we're going to have more of like a, for lack of a better term, I guess, federal system with the EU, right? And then I guess in your book, you're basically what you're saying is like, hey, if this thing all falls apart at the federal level, how is it going to look when we have a bunch of states that are now going to be like your federal government? You're
not even
decentralizing everything from the federal.
Wasn't there a movie that just came out along these lines, Alexander? That's recently, like where there was like a civil war in the United States and they all started forming factions. All the states did.
Well, there's the Alexander what's his name? Alex Garland did one called Civil War that came out.
Just recently.
And that one, yeah, and that one's a little bit more about, that one's a kind of a primal scream warning. It's set from the perspective of a journalist, photojournalist, and what their experience is like. And it's a warning. And I think that's part of the question is, like, a lot of people who are really concerned right now, they seem to jump straight to wanting to talk about, rebellion and revolution. I don't know.
Maybe they don't think through it, or maybe they do. And one of the things I've noted, like, you had this thing from the Trump administration. Let's get rid of the Department of Education, right?
Yep.
But like in your book, you kind of talk about, like, we have to start thinking about, like, these large federal programs or agencies becoming more prevalent in the states. So, like, as a, you call it the Defederalized Democrat, and maybe it's trying to make Democrats start thinking, like, wait a minute, maybe getting rid of the Department of Education and bringing it to the states isn't a bad idea, as long as you're identified with a state where it meets, like, with your values and your thoughts. Is that something that you explore in your book?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like a lemonade out of lemons, right? Like, if, for the last 80 years, we've benefited from, especially the Supreme Court as the fallback, and that's gone. And we haven't really reconciled that yet.
Yeah, like you were saying.
So, right. And so the question is, let's take, it could be the, Department of Education, it could be the FDA, right? Like, I've read in the news that they're now ceasing or vastly restricting food inspections, right? That's just a basic function of government. You want your food.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's all right.
I don't remember that in the campaign promise.
Yeah, right. No habeas corpus, no food, no chicken inspections,
and we're laying off air traffic controllers.
Exactly. So I'm in Washington State, and Washington State has a Department of Health, right? So at what point does Washington State say, what, we're going to do food inspections?
Gotcha.
Because the Department of Agriculture isn't. Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because government is built. We have redundancies all over the place in government. We have Department of Health at city level, sometimes the county level, the state level, the federal level. So I get what you're saying. So, like, the federal, we cut down the money in D.C. and then we beef up what we got here in Indiana, right?
But what if, like, some states say, yeah, we'll inspect, and some states say, like,
no,
we're not going to inspect.
It's sort of like
then you have
going back to the marijuana situation. It's sort of like a
go.
patchwork of some places say, yes, marijuana is legal. Some people say, no, marijuana is not.
And then what you, like, kind of locate where you feel like it meets your values. Like, I'm going to go there because marijuana is legal and they're doing food inspections.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So where you live, in terms of, like, concrete takeaways, where you live in this country is going to matter a lot more.
Gotcha.
Over the next few years.
So, like, I live in Indiana, and obviously it's a conservative part of the country, right? And then what we have here is we have some progressives that are trying to change it, but they're, like, running up a steep hill, right? So what you're saying is maybe people in the future are going to locate to the parts of the country where they're more comfortable, like maybe moving where you are if you're a progressive, and if you're a conservative living where you are, maybe they move out here.
Like,
right?
I don't like it. I like it because
sort of
there's
like,
no abortion available.
Sort of like
there,
Europe in a way, right?
Yeah,
we speak our own language over here. We have our own customs and rules. And
true. Yeah. Can't buy beer till noon on Sunday.
That parallel to Europe is spot on. I mean, California just in the news flipped over to being fourth largest economy in the world. Right. So I'm sitting here in Seattle. It's 6:30 in the morning. Right. If I want to participate on East Coast stuff, it's 3,500-mile flight, time zones, all that kind of stuff. And it's a little bit crazy right now for California because they're sending all this money to the federal government in the form of mostly payroll tax. Right. And then that money, then they turn around and then they ask for that money back to be able to do things like deal with the Palisades fires.
Interesting.
And so to a certain extent, like, just stepping back, is it any surprise that with so much concentration of power on the East Coast in this fairly small body, we would be contending with issues like authoritarianism, corruption, all these things? And so, over the next 3 years, it's going to be like this just month after month after month. So one of the fatal flaws for me, and this is the one that really was kind of like a gut punch in 2017, was thinking about something like universal health care. Right. So that's something that to me seems like a no-brainer. What the format for that looks like is an interesting conversation, but as a goal, that seems like where we want to go. The problem is that if I say, well, you're going to get national health care brought to you by the Trump family, all of a sudden I feel a lot more conflicted about that. And so this is the problem that the federal government's going to have over the next few years. So, how are you going to have the credibility to, launch a new initiative, right? And this is, I think, part of also why Democrats are going to really struggle over the next few years, because if you not only do Democrats have the difficult steep hill to climb just to simply get popular approval for all programs, but now they're going to have to do it and say, and you know what? We're going to guarantee that this program's never going to get taken over by an authoritarian leader.
Or even like you said about, this is interesting about California being the fourth largest economy. What if California said, you know what? F you, President Trump. We're not paying this to the federal government.
We're breaking off.
No, right. And that could be or just we're not paying these payroll taxes because you're not giving us the money to help our wildfires. So we need to keep this money. Now, that's a much bigger problem for the federal government than if, let's say, Rhode Island decides not to pay their federal payroll taxes, right? And it's an interesting question.
I'm hearing, Alexander, I'm hearing less political science fiction and more political strategy for Democrats. I mean, this I think, I like this. Tom, if Kevin doesn't work out as a campaign manager, you might want to reach out to Alexander.
I like it.
Well, what do you say, Tom? Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no. I think that there's going to be an opening for progressive leadership to say, I want to support these kinds of programs, and I want to empower the states to become the labs for these things. What would be more powerful than, say, a California or a New York successfully implementing a universal health care plan and then saying, you know what, let's adopt it. But right now we have to push this crazy stone up the hill.
The federal hill.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you very much, Alexander. Again, the Defederalized Democrat, we can find that on Amazon. I know that's where we got it, right?
John, you put the link in chat.
Link is in the chat. It's a fascinating book. So,
Alexander, I'll be honest with you, man. I thought this was going to be very technical and very policy wonky conversation. I was fascinated the whole time. I think you're an amazing guest. I really appreciate you coming on LockPod.
Yeah, this could have gone on forever.
Yeah,
there's so many sub questions. What happens to the military? What happens to social programs?
That's crazy, man. Honestly, your whole theory, the whole theory that you wrote this book under, I think it's a really cool concept. I'm going to definitely read this book. I appreciate the fact it's sitting in front of me. I just got it yesterday, so I would have perused it more before today's show. But the Defederalized Democrat, right here, get it on Amazon. Great guest, Alexander Moss. Thank you very much for coming on LockPod, sir.
Thanks, Alex.
My pleasure. Happy to come back if you need it.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. You a Mariners fan?
Yeah, I'm not. I'll confess I'm less of a sports guy, but yeah, and even around
I'm
here,
shocked. I don't believe it.
All right, then answer Lindsay's question. What's your favorite sci-fi? Or Lindsay, what's a good sci-fi question?
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Ooh.
So this is like Catholic or Protestant in the house. My wife is Star Wars. I'm more Star Trek because
I like your wife more than you.
I
Goodbye.
gotta tell you,
Good day.
I'm watching Andor right now, and it is like an absolute punch because
that's
right?
it's really good for a poli-sci guy. That's for sure. It's a lot of politics and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek is Star Trek more geeky in your opinion than Star Wars?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
it's more technical, right?
I feel like the
I'm not trying to I appreciate you, Alexander.
No,
I'm not trying to make fun.
It's and I could do the Henry Cavill thing and be like Babylon 5. Neither. It just sort of, depends on where you roll that. I mean, but they're all fun, and I think part of what make my son. So as a family, we're watching the original Star Trek right now.
No way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How many seasons was that?
There's only three seasons.
Yeah,
That's
not
it?
that many.
3.
Yeah.
Brian's
So
watching that now too, actually. It's
Yeah,
pretty
but they remastered them and put new special effects on, so it looks like it was shot yesterday. It's beautiful.
Captain Kirk always was making out with purple chicks and green chicks. Man, he did really well with Aliens. So.
I'm sure. Or you can watch
well.
Trouble with Tribbles. You can
A couple
watch
of
that.
them did really well with the ladies throughout the show.
I mean, you're out in
Indeed.
space for years at a time. You run into a purple alien.
First interracial kiss.
That's
Uhura
right.
and Captain, or Uhura and Kirk.
Yep, very, especially for the time, it was a very progressive show. And my son is, doing the classic thing. He loves Spock, and then my wife also thinks Spock's cute, so that cracks me up. I've become more of
the Vulcan handshake.
You're doing it wrong, Dad.
Yeah. I give you the Vulcan handshake, Alexander. It's good to meet you, sir.
There you go, gentlemen.
Okay.
So I'm going to start rolling like that. It's going to be my thing. Instead of I do the hang loose, I'm going to do the Vulcan.
All right. I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks for this great.
Absolutely. Star Trek, one thing I know, it's the only positive one.
What's that?
Every
Star
other
Trek,
bit
there
of
you go.
every other bit of sci-fi
You're
is
right.
apocalyptic.
You're right. You're
Wow.
So I'm a Star Trek guy.
Good point.
Alexander Moss, a great, intriguing
Pleasure, gentlemen.
guest.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you,
Thank
sir. Alexander Moss, Defederalized Democrat. Great guest. Good job, Steve.
I
Steve?
think
Thank
we
you,
might
Steve.
have a new another
Yeah,
ambassador.
Seattle
West
correspondent.
Coast correspondent.
Yeah. Hey, if things go down in Seattle, Alexander, we're calling you
calling
back.
you.
Okay? We like you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Lockpod. Another high quality episode. Again, Friday, we will not be on the air. We apologize in advance, but we'll be back 1 week from today with our normal routine. So I know you guys are going to be missing us on Friday. We'll be missing you too, but we'll come back and give you a great episode next Tuesday. Okay? So thank you, Kevin. Awesome job today. Great research.
Yeah, it was fun.
And, acting like you read the book before. That's huge.
I did a little research.
Because we got
He's
it
a
last
speed
night.
reader.
I was so
Unless he was
close.
up all damn night.
I looked at that. I looked at that
usually
diagram. I
is.
was only off a
That
page.
diagram was cool.
Yeah.
I was geeking out on it.
Seriously, he like labeled. He was like, "Oh yeah, your diagram on page
That's what he did.
127."
That's what he did. He was flipping through like, what can I
What a-
find?
No,
the diagram on page 112. It's
I
like,
got it by one. I was off by one page. Lindsay,
Wow.
Lindsay knows.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Thanks, Linz, for being here. Good to see you, baby.
Anytime, bro.
And Jay Vez,
Thanks.
awesome job.
Yep.
And to our audience, again, we're going to miss you, and we'll be back in 1 week.
See you Tuesday.
Not sure if we got a guest or anything, but it would be high quality.
Just medium at best.
Just like medium quality entertainment for sure. Take care, everybody. We love you all, and see you next week. Take care. Blockpod's out.